Hello, hello. Happy Thursday, everyone. So, today we're going to talk about the impact on hormones and weight loss when you're in perimenopause. So, do you even know if you are in perimenopause? Um, you know, there's just certain symptoms that start to happen, right? And many of us would like to balance our hormones and lose weight, but often we're at a stage in which it's really hard to do. So, I mean, just thinking back when you're in your 20s, we could eat a little healthier with less processed junk food and lose a few pounds and feel better physically, right? That still kind of worked in our 30s, but now, like in your 40s, it's just crazy that no matter what you do, the weight not only doesn't come off, but often we add more without even changing anything we are doing. So that, if you have that issue with your weight, not changing anything, and you're starting to gain weight where you weren't before, right? And that's kind of getting into perimenopause. Um, there's lots of hormone fluctuations, and the other symptoms that it brings are mood swings, hot flashes, and yeah, the extra pounds, right? Especially, around up a little higher instead of it lower in your hips, more in your upper belly, around the bottom of your ribs, that type of thing, in that area. Then that abdominal fat there, that's more of a impact of those hormone fluctuations. Um, so uh, it seems that there are no options for us, right? That is just what's going to happen as you get older. But that's not true, because what we actually need to do is balance our hormones so that our body isn't in that constant up and down that ends up causing us to gain extra pounds, especially around our upper belly. um, and it's kind of wild to think that some of the foods we eat just do not do enough to create that balance. But a lot of that is because of our current environment of stress, right? We have a lot of endocrine disruptors. Um, and, our food is often, had, pesticides or herbicides or other things that, are not able to be washed off very easily. So one thing that has helped me with that is intermittent fasting. And if you've been seeing me, looking at everything that I've done, a lot of the stuff that I've talked about is intermittent fasting. And I know, if this is your first time even thinking about intermittent fasting, that it might seem a little scary. Um, because you think, oh, does that mean I don't eat all day? Well, it actually doesn't, right? Intermittent fasting can be as simple as just waiting a few more hours before eating than you normally do. And as you get used to that, then you can extend that even more if that feels good in your body. Um, and once you start doing it and you understand, oh, it's actually something that you don't have to do every day, something that, you can get the benefits of fasting by just doing it, a couple days a week, or maybe doing it, if you do a longer fast, a couple of days a month, right? And with cycle syncing, it's actually not recommended to fast during the end of your cycle, which is like the week or 10 days before your period starts, because you need to have lower stress hormones so that you create the progesterone that you need, which is part of that balancing of your hormones, right? So, and that's why using a tool like fasting is really cool for wellness and weight loss, because we can listen to our bodies and cycle through times when it's better to use this tool of fasting and stop when it's best not to use fasting. So let's just kind of go over intermittent fasting. So it's cycling between periods of eating and not eating. And I did a video on it a couple weeks ago. So just look back, if you're on YouTube or in the Facebook group, do a search for intermittent fasting, and you'll see the video there. But what intermittent fasting does, it helps you tap into fat stores for fuel, and it also improves your ability to switch back and forth between using fat or using carbohydrates. And that's called metabolic flexibility, right? So it's really, beneficial if you have the ability to flex between the two, because when you do it more frequently, it's actually not as difficult to go back and forth. So then you get, not as bad symptoms of the going back and forth that can happen, right? Because a lot of times you're sitting there, you start fasting, and then your body has to think about, oh, what am I supposed to do? So then you'll go into a point where, you've depleted all your carbs, and then your body's going to be calling for them because it's what it's used to. Whereas when you are metabolically flexible, for me anyway, it just seems to be much easier for me to, kind of go back into fasting and then back out of it. Like, doing the fasting, like the first 20 days or so of my cycle is fine, and at varied times, right? And then, for the last 10 days, not doing any fasting. So, I mean, that flexibility is helpful. Okay, so let's talk about the hormone part again, right? So with perimenopause, your hormones can be kind of all over the place, right? And intermittent fasting can help to balance those insulin levels. And when you kind of balance that, then that also impacts your mood and your energy levels. And that can also, provide some help in regulation of estrogen and progesterone. And when those are kind of regulated, that can help kind of reduce your other symptoms like your hot flashes and your mood swings. But what's important about the intermittent fasting is that you need a schedule that works for you and that you are flexible using, right? So there's no one size fits all. A lot of times it's like, oh, you do 16/8, or you do 24, or you fast for 2 days and eat for 5, and you want to be flexible with what your body is telling you to do. So some days I can easily wait to eat until dinner time. And other days, I really have to eat at 9 a.m. And that's just comes with training your body to learn to fast. And it can be as simple as, changing when you eat by 1 hour at a time to see what feels good for you. So also reminders with fasting, ensure that you're staying hydrated, right? It's very important to make sure you're getting fluids in. When you eat, it's important to focus on nutrient-dense whole foods, right? Because, when you switch back, carbohydrates are fine, right? But you want it to be carbohydrates that your body can easily deal with. And, if it's processed foods, then a lot of times that comes with some sugars, and it comes with, some oils that are not as easy to digest for your body because your body just doesn't know what it is. Often it comes with, really with flours. So, that's just a packed thing to get, when you do a flour. So a lot of that you don't want, especially when you are coming off of a fast. You want good whole foods. And listen to your body and adjust your fasting to fit what you need, including not fasting during that last phase of your cycle, because that's when you want to minimize stress, and the stress hormone cortisol, right? And you, you, you know, you, when you do fasting, it is actually a stress on your body, just like when you do exercise. That's a stress on your body. Um, Anything that goes out of your norm puts a stress on the body. Now, those stresses are good for the body, but there's a time when they're not so good for the body, right? You want to put those stressors on your body so that you build muscle, or so that you know, use your fat. So, but you don't want to do that when your body needs to create hormones like progesterone that are disrupted when there's a lot of cortisol. And be patient when you're learning how to intermittent fast. Again, you can just take it 1 hour longer at a time and see how you feel. And remember, it's very important to talk to your healthcare provider if you want to do any intermittent fasting. So you can plan how long of a time might work for you, especially if you take medications, right? You really want to know, the impact of your medications on if you decide to not eat for longer periods of time, especially if you need to take your medications with food, right? So your doctor or a pharmacist would know more about if fasting would cause a problem with any medications you're taking. And if you've ever had an eating disorder, it is especially important to ensure that you're under the supervision of a healthcare provider if you plan to do any intermittent fasting, just because the mental aspects of that can throw your body and your mind back into a time such as that. And you want to ensure that you're being supervised if you choose to do any intermittent fasting. I would say probably, not to do anything longer than, what you would normally do for breaking your fast, whether that's a 9 a.m. or a 10 a.m., something like that. Probably not doing any kind of long, like, fasting till dinner or fasting for 24 hours or 36. You definitely want to have supervision for that. I hope this is helpful. If you are deciding to try intermittent fasting as a tool you'd like to use to help you with reducing some of those perimenopausal symptoms. And if you'd like more information about intermittent fasting or cycle syncing your fasting, you can message me or email me, and we can create a plan that works for you. I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful day. Bye.